Hello, and welcome back to Market Mama's podcast. We are so glad that you stopped by. My name is Becky, and I'm here with Kendra. We are futures day traders from the West Coast, just around 3.5 years into our trading journeys. So we created this podcast to have a space to offer up our constructive conversations that might help other developing traders learn, grow, and feel supported as these conversations do for us personally. Because all traders know that day trading is truly an incredibly challenging pursuit. We love it, so we're going to do it despite the challenges, but it's good to talk about it. Today, Kendra is going to do a recap of her week and take us through how it went and the lessons and experience she gained. So I'm excited to dive into your week, Mama.
Awesome. Yeah. So this week's recap is going to be a lot more centered around trading mindset and psychology for sure. My last recap had a much bigger focus on my specific trading style and edge. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Overall, this week just felt like a really big test, to be honest. Not much to write home about in terms of executing in P&L. I had some break-even trades. I had some small wins, and then I had some even smaller losses. So was profitable overall for my week, but not one day this week did I just really feel good or like I had performed well enough. So I'm going to recap the week of the September 16th through the 20th. So it was FOMC statement release week. I trade NASDAQ futures, and Monday through Wednesday, we had just been very much trading inside of a multi-day balance, very choppy price action, definitely scalper conditions. So really not my cup of tea, but I did adjust my strategy, and I had a couple decent scalps. And then Thursday, I was actually very, very happy to wake up to find, buyers had pushed price up finally. Overnight session had broke out of that 5-day balance, and she was opening with a nice gap up. So I did first enter around 6:45, and it was after a pullback. I believed that the rhythm off the +1 standard deviation was holding, and my other data did look to be shaping up. However, price did pull back and it made a lower low before finally holding. So here I thankfully recognized that, okay, I had an even better entry. I had some hidden bullish divergence that I love so much, and I went ahead and entered again on the next pullback. So here, my cumulative delta volume, which I talked about in my previous episode, it was still kind of not really giving me what I like to see. We were still under zero, and so or midline. So it was still kind of like it wasn't clear if like aggressive buyers had showed up. So I was still in my scalp strategy mode, and I just decided to go ahead and exit early, right under the +1 standard deviation. Then she continued up over the first standard deviation, and I took another scalp to my first target, and then that level held, and I got another pullback entry and took another position, but again, I exited early. So looking back, of course, the price just moved beautifully from my first entry to the second target, which was a high of day from August, and I took about half of that move, but in pieces. So I was in sync with how she was moving, but it just didn't feel like I managed that trade well, because I was lacking the confidence and the conviction to hold. However, it definitely was my better day of the week for sure. So Friday was just another choppy morning to start at open, and I did take a loss on a misread, and then I was able, I struggled with patience for a good entry to retest entry to trade short continuation once that direction was clear. But I was able to keep my focus and capture some of that after she resumed down. But again, I was struggling to hold to lower targets. So I basically just scalped that day to the previous low we had already made for the morning. So yeah, that was my week. No touchdowns, but I definitely moved the ball.
Girl, I love that you are talking about this because I think that this is like the real actual experience of trading. Like some days we see it clearly and some days we don't. And some days we take little pieces and some days we take like this sweet ass like move almost exclusively. And it's like, you can't guarantee that you're going to kill it every day because that's just not how it works. That's not how humans work. That's not how our minds work. That's not how all the emotions that play into how we end up executing. It's just a whole complicated hot mix. And you just do the best you can each day. And each day is going to be different in always in terms of how the market moves and how we respond to it. And so like superior defense and then executing on our best opportunities, that's literally all we can do. And the fact that you ended net green is a total win. And I love the whole concept of moving the ball, because this is another part of me being a scalper, is that when you take little pieces, sometimes it's unsatisfying and you have to literally, like Kendra and I put on this recording that we made, closing time, because it's like sometimes if you really just are out of time or whatever, you just have to accept a small win. But the reality is, if you keep stringing along small wins, it will add up to like a nice payout in a couple of weeks. And so in a moment, sometimes it's just moving the ball a little bit counts, and it will get you, it will keep the momentum going, it will keep pushing in the right direction, it will give you experience. And it doesn't have to be like blowout experience, but moving the ball through the game actually does add up and really counts. So kudos to you, because you are a total boss trader.
Thanks, girl. I mean, that is what trading is, but it's so hard because I feel like we know these things, but it hits you differently on different days or different weeks. You know, some days you're able to really rationalize that, that, and other days it just kind of eats at you. So this week was one of those weeks. Like I said earlier, it just felt like a test. Wednesday was definitely probably the worst of it, after having my best attempts to scalp in a tiny little range, missed my target barely, and then just being taken out at break even. Like two of those, that happened twice. And then I was like, why am I even participating right now? I was so discouraged. Like I felt torn between not trading under conditions that I'm clearly confused, frustrated with, but then feeling like I'm just being weak and scared. And then my last journal entry for Wednesday session, my reflection notes, it just really sums it up as well. And I wrote in that: the most frustrating morning, choppy, very draining, but held it together. This week is a lesson in defense and not forcing things. War in my mind. So that really became the theme of my week. Battle in my mind, not the charts. It also really helped that I was listening to the One Good Trade book, which I'm going to reference for the 1,000th time on our show. But towards the end of the book, Bella really drives home the point about tough markets being a catalyst to what strengthens you as a trader. He states that every different market will make you a better trader. What doesn't blow up your account will make you better. So I was like, thank you, Bella. I'm going to channel that energy for sure. It was an extreme amount of having to overcome and reframe each day to remember the brick by brick foundation, the long game, and the next 100 trades. It was like exactly what you were just talking about, Becky, like being able to just be okay with not feeling super great about your trading, but just still understanding that this is trading. Like it's still following your process. It's what it looks like.
Right. And like, who doesn't love a home run or a touchdown or whatever your sport of choice is? Like, we have experienced killer trades, and it's a great feeling. It's so reinforcing of the effort we have put in and what we're striving towards each day and our true potential as traders. But it's not the most common day. I'm gonna be honest, for myself, for sure. The reality is it's hard. Day trading is hard. And so I think recognizing in the moment that you are frustrated and it's not going ideally, that was maturity in trading. Because if once emotion starts to play in and frustration starts taking hold, that takes up space in your mind. And so if you are starting to get more frustrated, you have less mental capacity, I think, and in my personal experience, to like actually stay present with the data and make clear, focused decisions, because it starts to tilt a little bit in the emotional spectrum. And I also am working on like managing if I get frustrated for whatever reason in a trade like that, it automatically puts me in a less than ideal state to execute. So I think that's a part of the process. And when you can recognize that earlier, especially your live journal note taking is so boss for that, because it really reinforces you being present with what your experience is in the moment and catching it quicker than others might. So really great examples for any aspiring trader right now.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, any day that I've tilted and given into those emotions, like I haven't been journaling, I haven't been checking in with myself. And so it really helps if you can take that time to write down how you're feeling and be aware and manage yourself in real time. So I do have a little more to share specifically in the tactical performance area. So for any of our new viewers, we had the trading mindset coach Zvi from Whole Brain Trading on the show a while back. He shared some really great insights for developing traders. Now he's starting his own coaching podcast as well. So we'll definitely add his contact info in our description. So any one of you can reach out to him directly for a session. And I sat with him the week before. It's kind of like you give him an overview of how you're doing and he weeds through all that. And then he finds the key areas to target and then, gives you something to actually implement. So my major factors that we addressed were needing to be more selective on participation, specifically in what conditions are presenting with market direction, and then trade management strategy. So Zvi emphasized the importance of having those items predetermined before you even start planning an entry. So this really resonated with me, as Becky and I and other traders we've had on the show have expressed that, like, none of us have superpowers. Like, if we sit and stare long enough at our screens, like, we're going to find a setup. So for the first part, he gave me this task of having something like physical and actually tangible that I have to turn on that decides, okay, this market's open for me. So he described it like having a switch that would be turned on. And I related this to the idea of sort of like, say you're in the market for a specific item that you want to purchase. You have budget for that item, you know what you want to spend. You're not just going to go randomly shopping, meandering around. You're going to research, you're going to figure out which stores have the product. You're going to do price comparison, and then you're going to go make your purchase. So for trading, this represents the decision we make to be a buyer or a seller participant. So the second task he gave me was having a management plan. The concept of a trade management plan is its own strategy in itself that has to also be pre-selected and committed to. So he brought up just how it's just hard for our brains to make those decisions appropriately once we are already in a trade, and that more often than not, that does result in mismanagement of a position. And this is major for me because, I know from experience, I can tell you guys the amount of times where I have started doubting or overthinking a position once I'm in, and then overmanaged it and then messed it all up. Just to see, had I left it alone, it would have played out. Kind of like we were talking about in your previous episode, Becky, when you were like, nope, I'm going to leave this position. I trust it. I already did the work for it. And you just, you let it play out. So it's a very big, unhelpful habit that I'm actively working to break, to not overmanage. So it's very simple in the sense that it really just means like you're choosing before you're entering, okay, am I going to be holding and give this trade the room it needs and the time because there is a clear trend established? Or am I going to have a tight stop placement? Am I going to take profits as soon as I can at the most conservative and close to targets because price is rotational and consolidating? It's really about respecting the auction theory and the relationship between buyers and sellers, which is the entire basis that the market exchange is built upon. So that was the purpose and the logic of it all. And then how I chose to implement this was to make action cue cards. So I made 4 cards that I have printed, buyers and sellers, and then trending or rotational. So now my job, once I'm at my screen, is to make those determinations to the best of my understanding, first and foremost. So for example, if I believe buyers are in control, then I'll have to take that card and place it, in front of my screen before I would enter a long. If I'm proven wrong, I have to take that card down. And if I'm not sure, then I cannot trade without a card selected. And the same is with the management cards. If I have the buyer card selected, then I have to pair that with another card, either trending, which would be I'm holding, or rotational, which I'm not holding. So the trade plan work has already been done. The decisions are made, and now let the chips fall as they may kind of vibe. So needless to say, this is the game of probabilities. So nothing will always work all the time. And Miss Market can do whatever the heck she wants. But overall, I really like this approach because it definitely helped me just navigate the markets better this week and manage my positions better instead of forcing a bias or trading expectations this week. And again, it's very much tailored to me and my trading style and what I've learned about myself. If you're like a super scalper in and out within seconds, like this is not that, but maybe it will resonate with some of you all.
That is so cool. for so many reasons. So I love Zvi. He really is just a nice wealth of information with his 20 plus years as a in the trading world. And so that is such a good physical idea of like helping you lock into your process and manage your trade plan literally physically in the morning. Like there's so many tips that might work for one person or another, depending on how your brain is set up and how you create your plan and stick to it. But having a physical thing is powerful. And I recently actually saw a picture of a trading friend's desktop, and I was like, it looks like mine, because post-its everywhere and like little things that we want to remember and like quotes that help keep us in our best mental space. And that's literally what my desktop looks like. And I think a lot of traders, like, we like to have little reminders of our best selves, because it's so easy to get swept up in the moment with trading. Like, you would think maybe if you're 3 years into your career, like, you don't need to have these physical things and maybe you could just flow with it. But that's not the goal, to be overconfident. Like, you always have to be trying to do little things implemented all the time that make you that much better. If you can find something that like ups your edge a little bit, do it, and then fine tune it, and then keep growing and keep asking experts and ask good questions and get good answers and try different things. And you are doing just that. And it's such a good example of the real effort that it takes of like listening to people who have done more than us and then taking advice and working it. So that's awesome. And a great tip to anyone who's watching.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. Trading can be, it's like you have to stay humble and hungry, right? And you just have to remind yourself sometimes that it's the basics and it's about keeping it simple. But that in and of itself is hard, right? Because it's like, when you hear something like that simple, right? Like, well, like, duh, like, of course you're going to like just determine like what direction the market's going. And of course you're going to know how you're going to measure trade. But it's like, it's so much like thought processing that we're going through once, we're at our screens. And yeah, I would like journal and be like, taking like notes, but it's different. It's still different than like actually having like that physical thing. So it's just always great. Yeah. To try different things and to see, what works for you. And, so far I'm digging it. We'll see. But yeah, I did. Okay. So I wrapped up the week and I actually had a pretty big revelation on Friday. And it came to me after, like I shared, pretty much struggling all week to be positive in terms of like how I felt about my performance. So having not had my best trade yet, or any like huge battle day, like hole to, climb out of, it just kind of seemed like flat. I was like, I almost categorized it at first as like stagnant, but then like that's not accurate or really fair for the work I did and the week I had. Maintenance is probably more of a fitting descriptor, as I maintained my system, learning, showing up, and trying. Despite the slow momentum and no, major growth in my accounts, I grew the muscle to maintain. And that's actually a significant win. When I think of Kendra just a couple months ago, weeks like I had, that was often a big trigger for me, that sometimes could lead to sabotage. And I'll keep it real. I've been one to seek that secondary gain of, if I can't move forward, then I guess I'll go back. And I do have to parent myself a lot here, because, and just call it out for what it is. It's my own trader immaturity and insecurities. It's still very fragile. So I related to a child that acts out because bad attention is better than no attention. But none of that serves me, obviously. And it's my intention and goal to continue to build and not destroy progress. And it could just be easy to get in that cycle of like building, destruct, start new, repeat. And we've all been there for sure. And to be clear, like, that is part of building too. And I'll start over as many times as I need to, as many times as it takes. However, it is nice to just hold steady and not let the demons steal my progress, and then just have a solid neutral place next week to start. So that's the energy that I'm choosing to channel. And of course, still believing that next week could be my best trade yet.
Yes, girl. I think that maintenance is like way more reality than traders realize when they get into it. Like, all of us get into trading for the idea of just making great money at home on our computers. It's amazing. That dream is like starry eyes and big goals, and we're already planning our dream vacations and our yachts. But the truth is, those big like slam dunk days, they're not guaranteed, and they're not that often, and they're only after a hell of a lot of work. So having like maintenance weeks where you just don't fuck it up, is a win because, like the market isn't always having these big moves because even she doesn't have that kind of energy. So why do we think we have to? We don't have to. We shouldn't have to. And just the mere fact of having big blowups less often and managing the struggle days more appropriately are wins. Like they're like gray area wins, but like totally what it is to be a aspiring trader who is not yet like flashing their Lamborghinis, but is showing up and taking good trades and learning and getting better at execution. So that is, the moral of literally the year of trading that we're having, I think. So moral of the story is we show up and we try, and Kendra is a shiny example of just working very hard and holding it together and letting it compound over time. And I think that's what trading is. So it's good for us to have these conversations and say it out loud, I think.
Yeah, it totally is. So thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate your support, your views, your comments. We've been getting really great feedback, and we're hoping to collaborate with more of you all. So reach out to us, please. We have our email, contact us at market-mamas.com. We have our website at www.market-mamas.com. All that good stuff in our description. We look forward to hearing from you all, and we'll definitely be back with another episode. We've been putting out an episode every 5 days, and just bringing you all the best content we can. Let us know if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see from us, and we'll be back soon. Our best trading days are ahead. Everyone take care. Bye.
Bye.